Okay, I have a review, and today it's not what I typically review. I'm actually going to review a book of poetry, and I'm going to review A Stag's Leap by Sharon, and the cover of my shirt match. Not intentional. This book was published by Knopf in September of 2012. It has 112 pages and 543 ratings on Goodreads. This book won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry in 2013 and the T.S. Eliot Prize in 2012. Now, personally, I don't typically read that much poetry, and coming from someone who doesn't read that much poetry, do I think that it is Pulitzer Prize worthy or prize worthy? Yes, definitely. This does have a story behind it, and she's describing her feelings through different stages of her divorce from her husband and the fact that he left her. She is still in love with him. They have children together. They have been together for an incredible amount of time. She sees him in her children. She is just trying to pick up the pieces. It's just like so beautifully melancholy and like internally frustrated. I mean, she's not angry at him. She loves him still, but she's trying to get used to life without him being there and actually being with him so long that everything is associated with him and trying to disassociate. But then does she want to lose that love? I definitely enjoyed this. This is definitely something I will pick up in the future. This is definitely readable. Like, I will definitely pick this up and read it multiple times. The way that she writes her poetry is almost like a controlled stream of consciousness. I'm not used to reviewing or describing poetry, and I think I'm kind of inadequate at describing the devices and all that kind of stuff. I didn't really study poetry that much when I was in school, but it's just like a very interesting type of controlled stream of consciousness. And the best way that I can, like, when I read this, I can imagine like you're looking through her eyes at just bits and pieces of things as she's thinking of them, and it's all stringing together. Just the little things that just mean so much to her. Just like the little moments where you're looking at something small and seemingly insignificant to other people and just evoking that profound feeling of familiarity or longing or loss. Broken Shells would remind you of, or just looking at the ocean and just evoking those feelings. And it kind of reminds me of, there was this movie called, oh my gosh, I think it was like it's called Cold Souls with Paul Giamatti. And essentially, this is kind of sounds like a weird tangent, but like essentially the movie is about an actor who feels like his soul is getting in the way of his acting, so he has it removed. And eventually his soul is lost, and he has to go to Russia to find it again. And there is a moment where there's this thing where, like, when you get your soul removed, you can look at your soul. Like, you can look at what your soul looks like. And when I read this, it reminds me of what that scene was like when he was actually finally looking at his soul and seeing how beautiful it was, and just the still powerful grace of it, and just the undercurrent. Like, even though it's still on the surface, there's just this deep undercurrent of emotion and feeling that you get. And that's essentially how I feel about this book of poetry. It's definitely something I'll pick up again in the future. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, it definitely touches you. And this is her going through something very hard that was very difficult in her life. Your husband leaving you and leaving you for another woman, falling out of love with you, and coping with the fact that this person that you love so much no longer loves you, and describing those last minutes where you're still husband and wife and then no longer anymore, and moving on from that is incredibly powerful. And I feel very lucky to actually have picked this up. I give it a 5 out of 5 stars in Goodreads. Definitely, if you're interested in some poetry that invokes deep emotions, but it's not like ragged or like bawling your eyes out type of thing, but it's just like a quiet deep, beautiful melancholy and longing that it invokes in you. That was my review. I hope I actually reviewed this book of poetry well enough. I'm not used to it, but yeah, that was my review of Stag's Leap by Sharon. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye!